Good morning and welcome to the Prince George's County Department of Family Services 5th Annual Momentum Men and Boys Conference. Congratulations to everyone for committing your Saturday morning to spend with us. I'm sure that you'll find the information this morning invaluable. I'd like to also thank the wonderful members of my team here at the Department of Family Services for their hard work during this crazy year and making today possible. As you may recall, due to COVID-19, we were unable to host our conference at all last year. But due to this wonderful technology, here we are in person, almost in person with our conference. So I'd like for you all to please follow the science and listen to the direction of our leadership so that we can see you all next year. Unfortunately, Prince George's County has seen an increase in domestic-related deaths and related calls. We shouldn't be discouraged, but continue the hard work of mitigating this abusive behavior in our community. By the continued dialogue and supporting one another, I'm sure that Prince George's County can get to 0 deaths in our community. With that, I would like to ask Ms. Elena Ballon Butler, the Director of the Department of Family Services, to open our today's conference. Ms. Butler.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie, so much. So good morning, everyone. My name is Elena Ballon Butler, and I'm the Director for the Department of Family Services. And I'd like to thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is very important work. Domestic violence is important to all of us, and we need to raise awareness and educate our residents and our citizens. So please allow me a few minutes to introduce to you our Master of Ceremony. Mandrell Burks is a radio personality and creator of the first worldwide domestic violence radio program, The Silent Storm, on WHUR World. On December 1st, 2012, The Silent Storm made its national debut on Sirius XM Channel 141 HUR Voices and airs simultaneously on WHUR 96. Mr. Burks is a certified in the Duluth Curriculum for Domestic Violence and has facilitated groups for men and women who are perpetrators of domestic violence, and has also conducted conflict resolution presentations to elementary schools in Prince George's County. He's also certified in positive behavior for children and has incorporated technology in the District of Columbia Public Schools. As the former Director of Community Outreach and Public Education for the Family Crisis Center of Prince George's County, Mr. Burks has created annual forums entitled Let's Talk About Domestic Violence, an annual Walk Against Domestic Violence, and he has also partnered with Jason Cook, Director of a young adult organization, Colors, that produced a domestic violence play that has traveled throughout Prince George's County high schools. Mr. Burks has made several presentations on area radio stations and CNN headline news. He is no stranger to us. He is a founder of this work, and he is someone that I am proud to know. Thank you so much, Mr. Mandrell Burks.
All right. Good morning. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr. Director Butler. I really appreciate the opportunity to be the Master of Ceremonies for the 5th Annual Momentum 2021 Men and Boys Conference. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you, so please make sure you pay attention, turn your volume up. You might need to zoom in. Whatever you need to do, make sure you pay attention. First and foremost, number one, you will never reach your destiny if you are guided by a spirit of fear. Let that set in for a minute. You will never reach your destiny if you are guided by a spirit of fear. Number two, don't let your aspiration get canceled by your frustration. I'm going to say that again. Don't let your aspiration get canceled by your frustration. All right. You say, well, Mr. Burks, what am I frustrated about? Well, a lot of men and women deal with a lot of different issues, and they suppress their anger, suppress their feelings and emotions, and they don't reach out for help. That's what we're here for. We're developing a momentum so that we can give you the services, give you the resources. And you say, well, what am I frustrated about? And sometimes you don't even know. Maybe you're frustrated about the coronavirus. You're frustrated about the COVID vaccine. You're frustrated about racism, economic disadvantages, the poverty trap, missing father figures, either racial biases, the drugs, the gangs, the systematic exclusion of African Americans from better paying jobs, not having the ability to leave a substantial legacy for future generations, or maybe just because you're just living check to check, or maybe you're going through discrimination among home appraisals, the constant struggle of worrying if your child will be a victim of racial profiling. Every time you try to move forward, they make a little progress, they push the finish line back. That's what we're a little bit frustrated about. Now, again, don't let your aspirations get canceled by your frustration. You'll never reach your destiny if you are guided by fear. All right. I'm your host, Mandrell Burks. Again, the Prince George's County Department of Family Services, Domestic Violence, and Human Trafficking Division presents Momentum 2021, a conversation with men about mental health and wellness. And this conference will emphasize the importance of men's mental health in creating healthy relationships. All right. This virtual conference is going live on kysdc.com, mymagicdc.com, and magic is spelled MAJIC, DC.com, and praisedc.com. Now, in addition, feel free to share the Facebook page that's at 939KYS, at MAJ Magic DC, and at Praise DC. Now, we're coming to you on many social media platforms simultaneously. So if you want more information on this event or upcoming events, make sure you call 301-265-8423. Now, we need your questions. Feel free to drop your questions or comments in or on Facebook and YouTube. We have individuals monitoring those questions, and I will be more than happy to read your questions to our guests on the show. We want you to be engaged. We want to keep this thing moving. All right. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my great friend, person who's been on the front lines for quite some time. Let me give you a little history on it. In November 2018, she was elected as the 8th county executive for Prince George's County and the first woman to hold the position. Her administration is committed to providing a world-class education system, safe communities, and a robust economy that creates jobs and opportunities for all, and increases the commercial tax base to ensure residents are provided with the services they deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, put your virtual hands together for the Honorable Angela Alsobrooks, County Executive for Prince George's County. Well, I'll tell you what, until we have, I guess we're having a little technical difficulties, and until we come back, let me bring in my good friend, Sheriff Melvin High, because in this conversation, we want to highlight various resources, judicial resources, family services. So my good friend who's always on the front line is Sheriff Melvin C. High. Now, Melvin C. High was sworn in as sheriff on December 7th, 2010. And as a sheriff, he is responsible for leading, managing, and commanding more than 300 deputies and civilians in safety and crime prevention efforts to protect and serve the citizens of Prince George's County. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend, Sheriff Melvin C. High.
Good morning. I'm Melvin High. I serve the citizens of Prince George's County as the elected sheriff. Let me tell you, it's an honor to be with you this morning to talk about something that's a very strong passion of mine, and that's the prevention of domestic violence. I appreciate your time, and your time is precious, but you are one of the keys to the solution for domestic violence in our community. First, let me thank the Department of Family Services, Director Belon Butler, Division Manager Ms. Jackie Rohn for bringing this together and reaching out to an important population in our efforts to prevent domestic violence, and that's the men of our community. So I thank you so much. This invitation gives me the opportunity to enlist your help. You know, I've been involved in a passionate way with the prevention of domestic violence for a number of years. I don't have to tell you what the statistics are. I think you know them as well as I do. But just suffice it to say that there are millions of victims of domestic violence worldwide and thousands of victims here in our own county. And so we have to continue to work, have to work smart, have to work hard. We have to include our entire community to be able to bring domestic violence to a halt. Many of you have heard me say before that I have this goal of 0 incidents of domestic violence. I believe we can achieve that. With your help and our community's help and everyone's involvement, we can stop domestic violence in our community and all of the harm and hurt that it causes. In the sheriff's office and with your government, we've instituted a number of programs. We have worked in partnership with a number of people, family services being at the top of the list. But along with family services and a number of other service providers, we work in partnership in something called the Family Justice Center, where for the first time in Prince George's County, we have a one-stop shop where citizens who are victims of domestic violence can come and get all of the services they need to help them break the cycle in their life of domestic violence. So I'm so honored to be a part of that partnership. We also had a long-standing partnership with Family Services, working together with them to raise awareness and to make sure that everybody is aware of the various resources that we have here in Prince George's County to help people overcome this issue of domestic violence so we can be a violence-free community. I also want to honor the partnerships that we have with our fraternities and sororities. They've been good, strong partners with us and have come to provide resources and all kinds of information and materials that victims can use. And many of these organizations, our partnership not only works with victims of domestic violence, but we work with abusers. We can't get to 0 incidents if we have abusers. And so we certainly have to work with our abusers to help them see a different path forward in terms of their relationships. And in the sheriff's office, we have a number of programs that we work that I believe make a strong difference. One that I'm so proud of is our Positive Day program. It's Deputies Assisting Youth. It's a strong mentoring program within our middle schools, work with our young people as they're transitioning from childhood to adulthood to better understand themselves and how to develop and grow healthy relationships. And so that's just such a great program that's made a real difference in the lives of so many of our young people. And then we have our Domestic Violence Intervention Division, where we have an entire division that's devoted to stopping the scourge of domestic violence. And a strong part of that division is our advocacy program. We have a number of advocacies, participants that lead the effort to reach out, to search out, to find victims of domestic violence, and to work with them before it gets to a serious injury or death situation, and help them to understand how to move forward and take advantage of the various resources. And so that's been one of our very, very important programs that's made a significant difference in the lives of victims here in our county. And lastly, I would say in terms of important programs is our Purple Light campaign, where we work hard to raise awareness of every citizen in our community, because we need every person to participate, to be involved with this effort if we're going to stop this scourge. And so the Purple Light campaign started about 9 years ago, and we work close partnership with our community college and our family services division and so many other people through this process to raise awareness. The importance of this particular initiative is the purple light bulb, where a person has something tangible that they can see every day in their life by placing that bulb in their front porch or in a light visible to the outside to demonstrate to the community that they are in this effort to end domestic violence. But significant about that is that as they walk by this purple light bulb at their residence, it reminds them of the effort and what they have to do every day, not every other day or every other week, but every day to help us make sure that we have a very safe community for every citizen to live. So I thank all of these partners that we have that have made a real difference. But I'm here this morning speaking with you because we still have a significant challenge. Domestic violence is still rampant in our community. And so we need even more people to participate, to be involved. But particularly we need our men to be examples to our young people. Just as our Positive Day program is an example, a mentoring program, we need our men to be the example of what a person who's engaged in healthy relationships look like. So our young people can see you as examples of that kind of person and the person we want them to grow up to be. And then there's so many other things that you can participate in and be involved in individually and collectively to make a real difference in what we do here in our county. So Prince George's County is known then as a leader in this issue, and that people admire and look to us as that example where we are having no incidents of domestic violence. And you, along with us, all of our citizens, can make that happen. So I thank you. I know that education is the key to that, and so I know this domestic violence conference this morning will give you such strong information that can help you participate in a very meaningful way. And so I want to thank you again for taking the time to be here this morning to learn and to grow and to help us halt this terrible, terrible crime in our community. Thank you.
Well, all right. That's my good friend, Sheriff Melvin C. High. Thank you so much, Sheriff High, for your passion and your great work that you've been doing in the space of domestic violence for our residents. I recently reached out to the sheriff office just to get an idea about the restraining orders. And they told me it was about, they're probably at 2,000 restraining orders a month. 2,000 restraining orders a month in Prince George's County. They are doing some serious work in Prince George's County, ladies and gentlemen. And now, again, someone who's always been on the front line, always putting Prince George's County on the map, and always is, she always puts domestic violence on one of her top issues, being proactive, making sure that Prince George's is a safe county. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Angela Also Brooks, County Executive for Prince George's County. Hello, Angela.
Well, hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And I'm so excited to have a chance to be with all of you all this morning. And I certainly want to begin. I want to thank you, Mandrell, but I also want to thank our illustrious Director of the Department of Family Services, Elena Ballon Butler, who I have to tell you is not just a superstar in terms of this particular effort, but I certainly want to just take a moment also to thank her for the effort that she has made to help our families get through this pandemic. Director Elena Ballon Butler was a person who stepped up. You all don't know this. Most recently is our vaccine czar in the county, as well as everything else she's done. She's really rallied around our seniors during this pandemic to make sure that we distributed, if you can believe this, more than 1 million meals over the last year. And to give you some idea for what that means, we generally serve between 200 and 300,000 meals, but Director Ballon Butler and her team really ramped up and were able to serve our seniors who were so in need and served over 1 million meals over the last year. So I want to thank her. She's a superstar. She's what we call a super bad woman. And she's here again this morning serving our families. And we just want to thank her so much and honor her for the tremendous work that she has done. I also want to acknowledge another super bad woman. That's Jackie Roan For anybody who's seen Jackie Roan, boy, Jackie Roan can work harder than anybody I've ever seen. This Jackie Roan is the baddest woman ever, who leads not only with excellence, but compassion. And so, Jackie, we're thankful for you. We're lucky to have you on our team, and thank you for the work you've done. You've been on the vineyard for a long time, especially with respect to this issue that you have carried on your back. And we thank you for that, and for organizing such an amazing virtual event today. I also want to honor and thank Sheriff Melvin High, who you just saw speak a moment ago, and thank him also for being such an amazing leader, not only in terms of the work that he and the Sheriff's Department do every day for our families, and to help us to keep order at that courthouse and beyond. But he really has been one of the leaders in our community who wasn't ashamed to stand up as a man and claim this issue, and to really embrace it, and to say that every member of our community deserves to be protected and safe, and to really challenge all of us to do our best to end domestic violence. So I want to thank him for his leadership and the creativity that he and his team have brought to this with the purple lights and such. So I want to thank you so much, Sheriff High. You've done an amazing job, and I want to thank you as well. In Prince George's County, as you all know, our fight against domestic violence does not stop. I have worked in this area since 1997, when I was literally hired on a grant as the first ever domestic violence prosecutor to work full time in our county. And over the years, we have constantly looked for ways, solutions to better protect our residents against domestic violence. Last year, we announced new protocols, for example, to help victims of strangulation. And we're doing everything we can in government to make sure our court system can find justice for victims of domestic violence. All of the programs that we've created and all of the work we've done to stop domestic violence has a much greater impact if we're open with each other. And that's why we're here today. And this is such an important conversation. And it's about, unfortunately, a common problem. Domestic violence affects both men and women. In fact, 1 in 4 women will experience some form of physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetimes, and 1 in 7 of our men will experience domestic violence in their lifetimes. But studies show us that men are less likely to seek assistance when they experience this kind of violence, and are more likely to suffer in silence. And so I want to thank all of you for being here today. I want to urge you to open yourself up to this discussion. Talking about domestic violence can be uncomfortable, and we know it can be very hard, but that's why we're here, because we are here. It is so important to take on the hard stuff in order to move our families forward. And I can assure you that talking about this, talking about our mental health also, and sharing our experiences is not a sign of weakness or a source of weakness. It is actually a source of strength and courage. And I want to thank everyone for participating. Thank you all for joining this open dialogue today. And more often than not, talking about the problem is an excellent way to fix it. So I want to thank you all, everyone, especially all the partners who have joined us. I know there are a good number of them who have joined this effort today. And this is in defense of our families. If we really just boil it right down to what it is, we're acting in defense of our families. And I want to thank you all for stepping forward, for being leaders in our community, and for helping us to end this scourge, and making sure that we don't pass on to the next generation this true illness that has impacted and infected our families. So thank you all so much. God bless you. And if I might just also throw in one other plug while I'm here regarding vaccine. You know, as you know, we have been fighting this pandemic over the last year, and we are now in the process of vaccinating our community. And since I know we have a good number of men who are gathered today, please allow me to urge all of the brothers in our community. We want you to be protected from COVID-19. I've been reviewing some of the numbers that have come in initially of the people who have been vaccinated. And I want you to know that we are finding at least a 30-point spread between men and women who are getting vaccinated. And it looks like the men in our community are getting vaccinated a little more slowly than the women. We care about you, love you, and want you also to be protected. So please help me to spread the word that we want the women to get protected and vaccinated, but we also want the men of our community to please come forward and allow us to protect you as well. So thank you again. I'm going to hand this back over and hope you all enjoy today's conversation. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate those words of inspiration from the Honorable Angela Also Brooks, County Executive of Prince George's County. You know, people, we bring you all the resources virtually. I mean, we have the Director of Family Services. We have doctors in the house. We have a football player in the house. We have the sheriff in the house. We're bringing all these resources to you. I was most recently elected chairman for the Family Justice Center Foundation. And so it's critical that we bring our resources together and so that we can communicate and make sure we move forward on this issue. Again, I want to remind you guys, please post your questions or your comments in the Facebook or our Twitter channel. We will get to your questions. We have people monitoring them right now. We're going to bring them up when the guests come in. And as I'm talking about resources, we talked about judicial resources. Now we're going to bring in a portion of the community that's doing something. But I'm going to bring in I'm gonna give you a little insight first, but I'm gonna bring in the chairman of the Prince George's County, Maryland Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys. We must have a conversation with a gentleman to discuss this issue, and his name is Dr. Joseph Jones Sr. He serves as a Chief Operating Officer and Associate Pastor of the First Baptist Church of Glen Arden in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Now, Dr. Jones has served over 25 years on active and reserve duty in the U.S. Army, and as a military intelligence and psychological warfare operations officer. Dr. Jones, welcome to the show. How are you? Talk to me.
All right. Thank you, Mandrell. It's great to see you all today. Good morning to everyone. I want to first thank Ms. Roan and Director Belon Butler for inviting me and the members of our commission who are watching to this occasion, to this event. Certainly on behalf of the Prince George's County Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys, we are certainly pleased to serve and to be a part of this important conference. We will certainly address some of the issues that are surrounding mental health and wellness, and they're very much needed today. For your information, the Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys was established by the County Council to advise the County Executive and the County Council, and as well as county agencies and the public on issues and needs surrounding fathers, men, and boys in Prince George's County. And I want to personally thank County Executive Also Brooks for allowing me to serve as a chair of the commission, along with a number of very distinguished men in our community. The work that the commission has been charged to do is to recommend and implement programs or policies to effectively address socioeconomic concerns such as fatherlessness and responsible fatherhood, employment and economic opportunities, family law and domestic violence, hunger, poverty and homelessness, rehabilitation and integration, and health and well-being. As we address mental health and wellness today, we all know that the epidemic and pandemic of COVID-19 has had a significant impact on our health and well-being, mental health, and domestic violence, as we've heard, has been impacted tremendously during this pandemic. So in that regard, I'd like to echo the comments from County Executive Also Brooks to encourage all men, all fathers, young and old, and in between, to get their COVID-19 vaccine as soon as they can. And you should also encourage the women in your life to do the same. And it just so happens that my church, First Baptist of Glen Arden, has been designated as one of the sites in Prince George's County that is particularly set aside for the residents of Prince George's County. So please take advantage of the opportunity to be vaccinated. So brothers, we are here to serve our community. We are here to make an impact, and there's a lot that we can do together to make a difference. And we look forward to your working with you in our community. Thank you.
All right, we open the lines for questions and comments. As I stated, we're trying to, if you got any questions, we want to keep you engaged. We know the questions are coming in. And Dr. Jones, as we talk about this, first up, we got from Mr. Griffith. What resources are available in the county for college students? Students we are working with are saying that mental health services are overwhelmed. And what other services are available in Prince George's County that they can tap into? And that came from Mr. Frank Griffith.
Okay, I think we have Ms. Butler, and those can go into the specifics of the resources that are certainly available in the county. But I know that depending on the school, there are certainly services available at some of our colleges in the area, and that I know that someone on our panel can certainly provide more details. But our schools are equipped to provide student services, and mental health is certainly one of the areas that they should be able to address.
And from what I'm told, Mr. Griffith, thank you for that, Dr. Jones. Mr. Griffith, I'm told, call the Department of Family Services at 301-265-8401. And if you reach out to Jackie Roan, I'm sure she can point you in the right direction. And that's what we want. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. That's what we want. We don't want those questions. We want you to stay engaged. And we have some other people that's going to provide some more resources for you, because the only way we're going to break this cycle of physical abuse is to communicate, is to talk, is to continue to be engaged. Break the disconnect between all of these organizations that exist, but no one knows about it. So we're bringing things together. That's what we're trying to do. All right, people, get your burgundy and gold out, get your footballs out. Hopefully you selected the right team. I'm giving you a little insight on somebody that's coming up, and he's a good friend of mine. He's very hilarious if you talk to him on the side. Ken Harvey, he's a highly regarded as a role model, an athlete, and a visionary, while known for his dominance on the field as a four-time NFL Pro Bowler. Today, he's prominently recognized for his work off the field as a futurist engaged in the intersection of technology, sports, and business. A true Renaissance man. Now, Ken is also a published author. He's a health advocate. He's a philanthropist and a football coach to our national leaders on Capitol Hill. Now, he's a Texas native, but Ken earned football stardom at UC Berkeley and was selected in the 1988 NFL draft by the Arizona Cardinals. Now, there he played for 6 seasons until signing with the best team in the NFL, the Washington football team, in 1994. Now, he was selected to his 4th straight NFL Pro Bowl in 1997, and get this, ended his career with 89 sacks, an average of 8.6 per season. And I want you, this is the time, people, I want your questions or your comments. Feel free to hit us up on Facebook and YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Advisor, 4-time NFL Pro Bowler, and 2-time Hall of Fame nominee, Mr. Ken Harvey. What's up, brother?
Thank you very much. That's what happens when you write your own intro. Everything sounds great, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. Look, thank you, and for allowing me to be here and for be a part of this. I think it's powerful when men talk with each other, when we try to help each other, and that we just really reach out and communicate. Because I think a lot of times we deal with the same issues, but we don't necessarily talk to each other about them. I got my glasses on, so 1, because I can't see, but then 2, because I'm older, and 3, because I want to come across like I'm educated. And you put those glasses on, and automatically you look at the person. Oh, that guy must be smart. So let me throw some wisdom out to you, and then I'll talk a little bit about my life. What I've realized and I'm not a doctor. I don't have any degrees in that area. But what I realized that there are base emotions that we have, and this will pertain to my story of my football career. Your base emotions among them are fear and anger. Those are the base emotions that we have growing up, and those are the go-to. And while they're good in some ways, they're also bad in some ways. That base emotion of fear is good because it can protect you from doing stupid things and hurting yourself. It's bad because you can become fearful of doing the very things that can help you become a better person, reaching out, getting help, talking to someone, doing something. That the very thing, fear, can be a negative. The same thing with anger. While anger is good because when things happen, you're angry and your adrenaline's going and you're ready to fight and you know how to turn it on. It's a great thing, but then it's a bad thing if it's on all the time, or if it's directed in towards the wrong people and the wrong environment. So I just want to throw that part of it out to you as well. There's also three things that I want to kind of deal with and realizing there's the power of the mind. And me making it to the NFL, as much as it was physical, it was also had a lot to do with the power of the mind. The three things I want to talk about is, one, as men, often we don't know how to communicate. For me, as a young kid growing up, I didn't know how to communicate. I was angry all the time. I was frustrated because I didn't think people understood me. They didn't understand well what I was thinking about. I really didn't have a motivation for my life. And so you get angry. You go to that base emotion. You're angry all the time. And as a young man, I used to punch holes in the walls. I was growing up. I was getting bigger and bigger and realizing my strength. Like they say, smelling yourself. And so you're taking out all this anger and aggression because you're frustrated that people don't understand you. And so the base thing that you do is you just take out the anger. And that was kind of me. And so fortunately, my parents directed that energy, directed that anger towards football, towards sports. And sports, I've always believed, is a great outlet for people, for young men growing up. And so to direct that energy towards sports, where you say, okay, look, if you want to hit something, hit a person with a uniform on, but you're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to, you're going to have to play ball. And so I started playing Pop Warner football and taking out the anger in sports and football. And so that was kind of the beginning of everything. The second thing I wanted to talk about is that we as men are often told or have been told how we're to communicate, how we're supposed to be. You look at least, when I was growing up, and it's starting to take root now, the changes, but you look at the things that taught us this is what a black man was supposed to be, right? You see the TV shows, and it was always a black man was playing a pimp, he was playing a drug dealer, he was playing somebody on TV, and I was a big TV-aholic. I watched TV all the time. But those are the role models of what you saw. You saw that, some guy was having an issue with his wife, and the other guy will come and say, hey, man, you ain't got your wife in check. Like, that's supposed to be the right thing to do, is to check your wife and to use physical force. Or you would see, the world telling you that this is all a black man can be. And when they saw a black man with his family, treating his wife with respect, I still get it now. People seem like they're shocked that that's a reality, but that's the way it's supposed to be. Not that it's supposed to be the exception for any race. That's the way it's supposed to be for every race. You're supposed to treat the person whom you're with, treat everybody at least with respect, and especially your spouse. And so that was something that I had to learn. But that's the same thing as we put it in the relations to football. You have to learn to communicate on the football field. And a lot of guys think just because you're a great athlete is the thing that's going to make you a great player. But what they fail to realize is that it's about communicating to your fellow players. It's not just about you on the football field. It's about communicating to each other. It's about talking to each other. It's about learning to speak. We as men oftentimes don't do it because we've been told don't do it. It's territorial. If you talk to that person about something, then he's going to use it as a weapon against you. Or he's going to use that as a way to sneak in behind you or to do whatever. And so we learn very early on, don't communicate. When I was growing up, my dad was taught, if you communicated, if you spoke out, then that's where you would get lynched. That's where you would get beat. That's where they would try to destroy your family. That's where, it's systematic racism. And then it's passed on from generation to generation. Kids watch parents. You don't have to say, you don't have to give a great speech. You don't have to do a whole lot of things. People watch, and you don't realize how much they do watch and how much they do know and how much they do understand. And so they'll take that with them until the next generation. And so we as a body have had a lot of generational curses brought down on us. And it's up to us to say, no, stop it right there and say, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to learn how to communicate. The last one, I think, is we don't know who to communicate to. And as we've heard a little bit earlier, there are places that you can go. And sometimes it takes effort. We may want to say, well, what is this place? And you want the ready answer. But like everything, you have to dig. Watching football film, you have to dig and find out what that person's weakness is. You have to dig and find out what are going to be the best ways to get to that person or to get to that team, to do whatever. You have to dig a little bit. So if the answer's not right there in front of you, then you may have to dig a little bit. And then the second thing is you got to act on it. And then once you act on it, then you have to be continuous with that information, with whatever you're supposed to do. You have to do it until it becomes a habit. That habit becomes a lifestyle, and that lifestyle becomes who you are. That's the thing that we're preached every day, or we were preached every day in practice, is that if you do it enough, it becomes a habit. And like I said, a habit becomes a lifestyle, and it's a knee-jerk reaction. Now you don't have to think about what to do. You do it automatically because it's so ingrained in part of your psyche and so ingrained in part of your life that it is automatic, and you do it. So when you see that hole or you see that guy doing a certain move, boom, you're already there before even anybody realized it, before he even realized it, because you studied it so much that you know what to do. And once again, it's the double-sided cord. A habit could be a good habit or a bad habit. Spousal abuse, bad habit, right? You're doing it and it becomes easier and easier and over because you've practiced it over and over again. Good habit is not to do that, but it takes practice. It's not something that's going to be automatic. And so I'm trying to relate sports as it is to real life. But for me, that was my thing. I grew up, I was an angry young man. My family put me into football. I played Pop Warner football. I ended up going to high school. I played, I think it was a year or so in high school. I didn't play my senior year of high school football. I dropped out of school. And the reason I dropped out, once again, it was fear. It was lack of communication. Didn't really have a vision of what to see or what I could be. Didn't really know. And so, I was just kind of wandering around in the wasteland. But then once I dropped out, I got myself right, started educating myself. And for me, this is my own little personal story. Got on my knees, I prayed. I was like, God, give me a purpose. And it felt like God was saying, you have a destiny. You're supposed to do something. And so I would say that to every man who's listening, is that you have a destiny and you are supposed to be great and you are supposed to do something. And never let the world tell you that you're not. You got to start believing that, because it starts with you as the very foundation of who you are. As a person who knows, I am put on this earth for something great, something special. And whether it's just raising your kids can be the very, very person that changed the world. But because they changed the world, it's because they got the seed from you. My mom just passed away recently, and I have a picture of me helping some kids in Haiti. And every time I look at that picture, it reminds me of my mom, because the seed that she put in me a long, long time ago. And every time I stand against the enemy of people coming at me, it reminds me of my dad as he stood to fight for us. So our kids are watching us, regardless of whether you know it or not. They're trying to look at us. And if it's not your kids looking at the parents, they're looking at the TV shows. They're looking at our coaches. They're looking at the school teachers. They're looking at people in the community, people in the church. They're looking at everybody to see, who am I supposed to be? But they're not going to say it. They're not going to speak it out. They're going to just watch, and they'll react, and it'll be a seed planted in their lives. I ended up going back to school, and then I had a vision saying, I am going to go to college. I wanted to go to college. And so I started working, saying, okay, let me take out all this anger, all this frustration in the gym, in the weight room, use my energy for something good. So I started working out, and I worked out like a madman. I met a guy in the gym. He told me about a junior college in Oakland, California. Here's the next thing is, sometimes you have to take a step of faith to go against that fear. So he told me about a junior college in Oakland, California. I have never been as far as where I could walk. We had one car, nine people. So I hadn't been out of town. I hadn't been anywhere. And he was talking about from Texas to Oakland, California. But sometimes you have to take a step of faith. And that means sometimes you may have to call a center and say, hey, I need some help. Maybe you need to call a friend, say, I need the help. Maybe you need to join a group and say, I need some help. You have to sometimes take that step of faith in order to have those great things happen to you. And so I had to take a step of faith. And I went to this junior college in Oakland, California, played there for 2 years, got a scholarship to the University of California, Berkeley, met my wife. Who we've been together. It's going on 32 years now, and still had temporary here and there, but she's taught me a lot, and we both had to grow. We both had to learn to mature, and the main thing in that maturity was communicating with each other, expressing each other's feelings, and being able to do it in a safe environment, being able to do it where we could talk to each other and not turn on each other, knowing that we're not enemies, we're doing this to get better. We also had people around us who were look into our lives and talk to us and help us out. And there were moments where, we clashed. You think everybody's celebrity and everything's great. We clashed. And there were times where I was sitting in the car and I didn't want to go in the house, and she's in the house and she didn't want me to come in. And we've had to talk to other people to help us in building this relationship. And so through sports, I met a lot of great people, helped me out a lot in my life. And that's the part of communicating with others. I've tried to learn to express myself a lot better. I made a promise to God when I was younger that if he got me out of the point where I was dropping out of school, where I was at the bottom of the barrel, where I was to the point where I was trying to kill myself, and he got me to a point to say, you are worth something. I said, you know what? If you give me the opportunity, I will speak. I will glorify your name. So, here I am speaking. You don't know how it's going to come and where it's going to come, but here I am trying to reach out because I know for a fact that there are great things that you can do. So no matter where you've been, that's okay. That's something to learn from. That's something to grow from. It's where you're at now. And what are you going to do with what you have now? That is the main thing. Then it's doing something, and then it's consistency in doing it. That is a step. So for all you men out there who are listening, men, young men, women, whoever's out there, understand you are something special. And the best way to destroy a lion, the best way to tie up a strong man, is quoting the Bible, the best way to tie up a strong man is to first break in his house and tie him up, bound them up, and then you steal everything from him. So the best way to stop you from being great is to tie you up with abusive behavior, tie you up with anger, tie you up with bad habits, tie you up with so many different things, and then walk in and steal your gifts, steal your gift of being a great musician, steal your gift of being a great dad, steal your gift of being a great father. That's the best way to do it, is to steal it before you even realize that you have it. God has given me an opportunity to play football, and I played football. And then, to be honest, I had lost that message for a long time, and God has given it back to me. And so I am happy and I'm excited to be able to share a little bit. Look, I played 11 years. I went to 4 Pro Bowls. It was a great time. It was a great time to achieve and to see what you can do if you follow this right path. But you also realize no one's perfect, and it's constant work. And so that's why I'm here. I thank you guys for allowing me to speak, and hopefully my message rings true. I don't wave the flag and say I'm perfect. I got a lot of things that I still continue to work on. But the thing that I can say is that I am continuing to work on that. I have a great wife, and I say she's great because, one, she is great. She just celebrated her birthday yesterday. Great cook, beautiful wife, way more than I ever expect. But I think the thing that we have done is that we're learning to communicate. And look, it's been almost 30-something years, and we're just still learning how to work out together. We're just still learning how to do some things together. We're learning each other's roles. And the more we communicate and the more we set aside our own little selfish behaviors, the better life is. And that's about a relationship. People shouldn't be shocked to see a Black man with his kids. People shouldn't be shocked to see a father with his sons, but they were. When, at times when I would walk with my boys, they were like, whoa, you're a good dad. Like it was something out of the norm. That should be the norm. But we've been taught by society, we've been taught by the videos and the movies and different messages that is out the norm. We are supposed to be over sexualized. We're supposed to have 1,000 women. We're supposed to be abusive. We're supposed to have everything in control. We're not supposed to talk, and we're supposed to be these raging animal monsters. That's what's been fed into you all your life. That's what's been fed into your kids. We got to put up a point and say, I stop it right now, and this is who I choose to be. Go out and find role models and look at their lives and read their stories, because there are a lot of good things out there. So I talk a whole lot. I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time. I will open it up to questions if you have any. Mandrell?
Hey, well, you said a lot, Ken, and just the fact that you're able, it's almost like when the pressure turns to success, or using this pressure to be successful. I mean, just hearing it from you, a lot of men or a lot of boys needed to hear that. They see the glitz, they see the glamour, but they don't see the pain behind the glamour. They don't see, or they can't hear from someone who has been on that stage, who has seen those lights, to understand what to do. What is the layout? What's the blueprint? What do I do? I got all this pressure. I'm expected to be somebody, but I'm dealing with something on the end at home, something that people can't relate to, because I need resources, and thank you for the transparency. Unfortunately, we got to keep it moving. But Ken, if you just throw out your website so people can reach out to you. I appreciate
if you can go to KRH Harvey or KRH Company, KRHcompany.com. That's my website. I have a bunch of children's books. I believe in planting seeds. And so, you can reach me there. And if you need that, I'm there.
All right, people. Thank you so much. That's Mr. Ken Harvey, 4-time NFL Pro Bowler and 2-time Hall of Fame nominee. We're going to keep this ship moving, because we believe that we brought in the judicial system. We brought in the county executive. We brought in the sheriff. We brought in a Pro Bowler for you to get this conversation started. Now, I'm going to bring in something unique, all right? I'm going to bring in another resource to you, and the resources will be scrolling along at the bottom of the page, so you can see those numbers, so you can see those websites. You can also see that information with Dr. Tricia Bent-Goodley. It's coming. Dr. Wingfield, he's going to provide resources. It's coming. That's what we're here for. Ask those questions so we can give it to you. Let's make these partnerships work. Coming up to the stage next, virtual stage, that is, Executive Director of 108 Community Organization. His name is Troy Jones, and Troy Jones is the CEO of 108. He is a social advocate, a mentor, a motivational speaker, an author, and a domestic violence survivor. How many times have you heard men speak out as a survivor? Not that many, but they are suffering. For the last 25 years, Jones has continued his work in the human services field, working in his way, from a teacher to director. And he's assisting people from different ages and backgrounds. Now, Jones created 108 to empower men holistically with the tools necessary to identify and maintain healthy relationships. That's critical. And get this, to help men overcome past abuse and trauma, because a lot of times, Troy, a lot of men like to suppress their anger and issues, and they just act like I got to be a man, so I can't say anything. Talk to me, Troy.
Absolutely. Mandrell, thank you. First of all, the way you introduce people, I feel like I'm in like the WWE, like I'm coming down stage, like, introducing. And so I appreciate that, man. I truly appreciate it. I also want to thank Department of Family Services, Prince George's County, for this. And thank you, Jackie Roan, for this opportunity. It's not often that men will speak about their pain or their abuse. And so I want to make sure that what I'm saying today is for them. Men, I see you. I hear you. And I want you to know that this message today, I want the women to listen. I want you to really listen, because I'm going to speak for those men. A lot of those men that desire to say it, but don't have the courage, or they might not even be aware of what they're going through. 108 Community Organization was born and created out of desperation, really. I spent 17 years with my ex-wife, 17 together, 14 of those years were married. I had no idea that I was being abused. You know why? Because society tells us that it's normal. It's normal for us to want to make our wives happy. Of course, that's a great thing. But if that's the only purpose that we have, if our only purpose is to work and provide, and but we don't know how to communicate effectively. We know we gauge our happiness and our success based on our wife's response. If she's smiling and she's not nagging us, we must get a thumbs up, right? But what happens when abuse, because you're going to hear that a lot, and you hear people say, well, we got to stop domestic violence. All of it isn't violent, but all of it is deadly. What happens when you suppress your feelings and emotions and you don't really know how to articulate it? Come on, guys, you know what I'm talking about, because we talk to our little kids about it. Right. You know, the stigmas about little boys not crying and things like that. And maybe not all of them, but for the most part, we have this way about us that we don't really want to express ourselves because it's considered weak or not acceptable in a lot of areas. Well, when you grow up like that and then you get into a marriage, how do you unlearn that? How do you unlearn something when society calls it normal? Right. But our women want a strong man, but what does that look like? And when you start taking the word masculinity and you start saying that it's a negative thing, well, what do we have when male is associated with masculine? You see, in my marriage, I got in with my eyes wide open. And marriage is a great thing. And then you ask any man, marriage is a sign of success. And so divorce is what? A sign of failure. And so one of the things that we don't want to do is fail. We don't want to fail at anything, right? I don't care if it's sports or any, we don't want to fail. And we definitely don't want to fail our family. The one thing that we feel we were created to do and hold dear is family. And so when you feel like you're failing at that, you suppress those feelings, you hold them in. And that's what happened to me. Everything that I tried to do, I tried to make this woman happy, and I couldn't. There was absolutely nothing I could do. And I don't want to point the finger solely at her as if she's a bad person. She did some very bad things, but she wasn't really a bad person. She had some some healing that she needed to deal with. I wasn't even aware of how much I had to deal with. And so I remember one time I was lying in bed and I called her. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And she was out. She was at a club. And I don't think it's anything wrong with your spouse going out. But this particular time, I called because she had been going out over and over again. And I remember asking her, and I could hear the guys in the background. I knew the club had closed and she was there. And I remember asking her, babe, when are you coming home? I have to get up and go to work. I got to get the kids up and I got to go to work. And she told me to stop acting like a female dog, if you will, and that I need to man up. Why did she get to a place where she could say that? Because other things have been happening. Other things have been happening, the put downs in front of people. But we say that we're joking. And if we can't take it, then we're not being a man. See, the abuse wasn't physical. It was emotional. It was psychological. It was financial. If I didn't do well, if I did something or said something that she didn't like, then she withheld sex. Right. And she let me know, you didn't do that right. Yeah, you won't be getting any. Oh my gosh. Right. And so I'm normalizing this. I'm thinking this is what a man's supposed to take. And in order for me to get sex or be intimate with my wife, then clearly it must be something else that I needed to do. I started feeling like I was losing my mind. Guys, listen, I'm not talking about a moment. I'm talking about almost every single day of living like this. And we say these things and we degrade our men. And I'm not saying that you do it deliberately. But when you come home, when you feel like you don't want to go into the house, when you're disciplining your children and you have someone there that's trying to correct you, or you hear in the background someone talking about you to their friends, or you just realize that it's just a level of respect that's not there. See, I wasn't taught how to do the background check. I wasn't taught I figured that as long as she was beautiful and she looked great, then all other issues we can work out. It's only if the person want to work them out themselves. It's just not possible. It's not always possible to do that. And so Let me fast forward a little bit. It got to the place where the abuse continued to happen, psychological and gaslighting, and all forms of trauma. And then infidelity hit. You know, I got a call one day, I'm at work, and the gentleman, the woman says, hey, is your wife such and such? And I say, yes. Well, your wife is sleeping with my husband. Oh my gosh, this was devastating. And I'm so angry, and I wanted to well, you can imagine what I wanted to do, but I didn't. I said, what is his number? I called him, and I said, listen, the best thing for you to do is be honest with me right now. Are you sleeping with my wife? And he said, yes. And I wanted to know the details. Don't ask for details. Please don't ask for details. But I did. And he told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so hurt. And she denied it. She completely denied it. And so I want to encourage men that when it is happening, you have to address it. And then my first thought was, well, what is wrong with me that you got to go out with someone else? And she allowed me to believe that it is something wrong with you. And that's why I did this. And so later on, compiling all of that stress, holding it all in, I went to the doctor, and the doctor told me, because I thought I might have had cancer, because my body started producing cancer-like symptoms. And so me thinking that I had cancer, of course, I'm going to go to the hospital. And he told me after several visits that, Mr. Jones, you have less than a year to live. What? How does that happen? What do you mean I have less than a year to live? And it was only at that moment that I realized that I was being abused. I've talked with men all over. I do conferences, I've spoken, I even have a men's support group. You know, a lot of men just have no idea until it's too late. So how do you acknowledge domestic abuse for men? Well, it's kind of like acknowledging air, right? We know it exists, but we don't want it until you're gasping for it. I looked for help. I couldn't find it. As a heterosexual male just wanting a healthy relationship, there was no help. There was nothing consistent out there. If I was on drugs, if I was getting out of jail, there was a lot of resources for me, but just wanting to be healthy and have an opportunity at a healthy relationship, there was nothing there. So what was I to do? I stopped complaining. And I told God, if you put one person in front of me, I'll speak to them as if it's a million people. But if you put a million people before me, I will speak to that one person. And I'm speaking to that one person now, because when I decided to speak, I went to a church and I'm thinking this is the safe place. And they were talking about domestic violence. One man talked about his story. He talked about his story and the congregation laughed. So what hope was there for me? The woman was on stage and she talked about being an abusive woman to men. The congregation giggled. I am sitting there thinking I will never tell my story, but I decided to. I wrote a book. I created a company and a men's support group this support groups meet every single week. And we've been doing that for 7 years now, because men don't suffer quarterly or annually. It's every day. And so if you go to 108organization.org, click on the links. That's all you need. Click on the links, get the books, because I'm going to tell you upfront and personal through those books. That's a daily fight. You know, I'm not going to give you all the glitz and glams of it, right? No, it gets dirty. But when you do the work, there's hope. There's relief on the other end. I did the work and I've been rewarded. My life is almost like it's fresh all over again. I have a beautiful wife. Oh my gosh, because I decided to do the work. I decided to correct certain things. I have a beautiful son. My relationship that I felt was failed in my past relationship, we're doing the work to make it better. So there is hope. But you have to acknowledge for yourself something isn't right. And that's all I want you to do, is just to say something isn't right. And then you can click on a link. You can go to the phone numbers that they're giving you today. You can go to 108organization.org, mental and emotional and physical health. All of that is great. But I want to make sure that we're doing our part in giving back. Really quick before I go, one of the gentlemen that came to us when he was 18 years old, this just happened yesterday. He came to our support group homeless. The system had kicked him out homeless. I told him, if you commit to come into our men's support group every single week and do the work, we're going to commit to you at the level in which you're committing to yourself. Yesterday, he signed. He's 24 now. Yesterday, he signed for his first home. He is now a homeowner. And that's because the brothers in this organization, we gathered around him and we supported him and we continue to sow into him and we continue to speak life into him. And if we can do that for him, we're going to do that for you. You know why? Because God did that for me. He did that for me. When I couldn't find anything, I decided to create something. So I don't want any man to have to go through what I went through, or much worse than what I went through. I just want men to have something that they can rely on all the time. So thank you, Mandrell. Thank you so much. Jackie, Roan, thank you so much. If there's time for questions or anything, I'm definitely available.
Well, unfortunately, what we want to do is post those resources and get that website out so you can reach out, because we got a packed program within a limited amount of time. And I know this program should be a little bit longer than what it is. But thank you, Troy, for sharing that story. And it brought back a memory when I remember being in a church. We were doing a forum, let's talk about domestic abuse. And a gentleman did come up to the microphone and he said, hey, I am a victim. I remember I am a victim of being of physical abuse. And the people they were laughing. They were straight up laughing. But guess what happened? He raised his arm up, pulled his shirt down, and he showed this huge scar where she cut him with a machete. Then everyone shut down.
Yeah.
These are the stories that people either don't want to hear or not familiar with hearing. And, I don't know if it's the media or if it's just not our culture to allow men to speak. And yeah. I appreciate it, Troy. We're going to keep moving because we basically have two special treats in one package. I do want to recognize the fact that, people are hitting me up and we have, Mandrell, I got this resource. I got this. Post it in the Facebook chat. Post it in the YouTube. I got Washington, D.C. alumni chapter of Kappa Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. They said email them if you got your young men and you want to groom them into a positive behavior. They said email them at flagshipkappaleague@gmail.com. We also have two other brothers, McKinley Hayes and Maynard Smith, representing the Eastern Province of Kappa Alpha Psi Domestic Violence Committee, because they recognize that, hey, we need to do something. And in sororities, fraternities, I got Daryl Hopkins emailing me. He's representing Phi Beta Sigma. So, we just got to continue this conversation through the Panhellenic Council or whatever. Keep the conversation moving. All right, people, don't give up. And then if you can't get your question in, don't get frustrated. Post your resource. And don't post your resource if you're not doing the work. We're not trying to do that. We've been here for years. We've seen people come and we've seen people go. If you're dedicated to this service, then get in there, do the work, let people know who you are so we can keep this shit moving. All right, people, again, we got a treat for you. Like I said before, two special treats in one package. I'm coming up with my good friend. I've been doing this for years, and she's been doing the same thing for years, changing the world. Dr. Trisha Bent Goodley is an experienced licensed clinical social worker and researcher with over 27 years of expertise in mental health and trauma-informed care, system engineering, and organizational leadership. Now, her research, administrative, and clinical career has included specialization in addressing trauma and violence with a focus on community-based interventions, culturally specific care, and for the last 7 years, working with professional athletes. We got a celebrity on our hands, people. Listen to what I'm saying. She also serves as the chair of the Prince George's County Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team, is currently the director of the Federal Grant Demonstration Initiative on Domestic Violence Homicide Prevention. You better listen, people. Dr. Bent Goodley is a professor emeritus at Howard University and a graduate professor at public health at Howard University Graduate School. She received her master's degree in social work from the University of Pennsylvania and a PhD from Columbia University in social policy planning and analysis with a specialization in public health. She's proud of being a devoted wife and a mother of two sons. Do you realize how huge her bio is, and I only gave you just a little bit of it. And I told you it was two treats in one package. So now I got to move over and give you some info about the director of behavioral health, Boys Town in Washington, D.C. We're talking about Dr. Robert J. Wingfield. He's a licensed psychologist with over a decade of clinical experience delivering outpatient behavioral health care to children, teens, families, and young adults. I told you we were going to bring you resources. He is the author of several peer-reviewed journal articles and a book chapter addressing various topics, including childhood obesity prevention, childhood trauma, children's health development, and academic socialization. He earned his doctoral degree from the University of Florida and received advanced clinical training as a postdoctoral fellow at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and Kennedy Krieger Institute. His clinical specialties includes evidence-based treatment for anxiety, depression, which we all know we're dealing with, but we're not admitting to it, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and related conditions. Y'all just heard some terms you never heard of before, but you might be dealing with it. During his career, Dr. Wingfield has provided psychological services in multiple settings, including outpatient clinics, hospitals, a juvenile detention center, residential group homes, a university disability resource center, and K-12 schools. He's a native of Prince George's County, Maryland, where he currently resides with his wife and 5-year-old daughter and his 1-year-old son. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. Please welcome Dr. Tricia Bent Goodley and Dr. Robert J. Wingfield.
Thank you, Mandrell. You are an awesome MC. If I can take you everywhere I go in the country, whatever you charge to give intros, I'm willing to pay. I appreciate that wonderful intro. It's a pleasure to be here, and especially with my esteemed colleague, Dr. Tricia Bent Goodley.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wingfield, and I echo that. I think we all want to take Mandrell with us. I want to say, we have been so blessed today to have heard the previous speakers, though. What they have given to us has been nothing short of remarkable. And we can't start this conversation on mental health without first saying thank you to them, because they left us with such gems. Mental health, therapists, clinicians, persons in your community are part of the village. And we are here to talk with you about this really important topic of mental health and how much we want to encourage you to continue to advance your own mental health. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what mental health is in our next slide. And then we're going to give you some information. I heard the question earlier about what resources exist. We're going to share a plethora of resources with you throughout our conversation. But just to get us started, mental health is how you think, how you feel, how you behave. It's how you address stress, how you cope, how you adapt to different forms of change. So what we want to make sure you all know is that we all have mental health. Mental health is a part of all of our experiences. I heard Mandrell mention our wonderful fraternities and sororities, the great work that's going on there. The Kappa League program that was referenced, and some of the work happening with Kappa Alpha Psi. I also want to highlight, you see a picture here called Brother, You're on My Mind. This is a toolkit that's available where Omega Psi Phi fraternity is talking with NIH in a collaborative work around mental health. What that means is we're having these conversations, and we believe that more of us need to be engaged and involved in talking this through. Let me give you some statistics about mental health. I just want you to understand how prevalent this issue is in our community. So we're going to look at this particular slide. 1 in 5 adults, that's almost 52 million people over the age of 18 in this country, are living with a mental illness. This is really important because sometimes we think that mental health is not happening in our community, or we think that mental health is an issue that women might only experience. But what we've learned is it's an issue that's relevant to all of us. Of our young people, ages 13 to 18, almost 50% have reported experiencing some sort of mental health condition. Let me tell you why that's so important. I think sometimes when our young people are talking about how they feel, in our heads as adults, we'll be saying to ourselves, I've dealt with much more than that. You'll be okay. What do you really have to be upset about? And the truth is our young people are experiencing mental health challenges just as much as we are as adults. And this couldn't be more true than during this time of the COVID pandemic. Suicide. Suicide is the third leading cause of death among African Americans ages 15 to 24. Now, this is an interesting statistic and number that we're seeing, because this is not something we've always seen. We have not always seen suicide as being as prevalent as it is now in our community. This is telling us, you all, that we must pay attention to our mental health. And those numbers, unfortunately, are being driven by who? African American males, young males. So this is something that we must wrap our brain, our hands, our arms around. Each year, for men, we see over 6 million men who have experienced depression, over 3 million men who've experienced anxiety. We know that of the 3.5 million people who are diagnosed with psychosis or schizophrenia, the majority of them, 90%, are men. And of the 2.3 million Americans who are affected by bipolar disorder, half are men. 35% of people with an eating disorder are men. What does this say? Brothers, we got to take care of each other, and we need you to take care of you too. So we've given you a little bit of help around how prevalent this issue is. Dr. Wingfield, there's still a lot of stigmas around mental health. Why is it that this is such a tough issue for men to reach out to get help for?
I'm glad you're posing this question to start with, because even though there's a lot of momentum with how men are getting more attention, men were often neglected in research when it came to mental health. Men were often seen as these figures who were impervious to emotional challenges. Men were seen as so tough and resilient that they didn't need support, which of course was not true. I'm so grateful for individuals like Mr. Troy Jones, individuals like Mr. Ken Harvey, and everyone who's taken part in today's experience. I am excited, stimulated, inspired by everything I'm hearing. So I hope that anyone tuning in is getting similar benefits. And Dr. Ben Goodley, to your point, it still is an issue with men sharing. A recent survey revealed that 46% of men are embarrassed to share their mental health concerns or challenges with their friends. I'm not talking about sharing it with a stranger or a doctor or someone who is in a position of authority, just with their friends. That has to change. We need to feel comfortable sharing information with our friends, family members as a start in this race, in this journey of health. The World Health Organization has a really good saying. It says, there is no health without mental health. And so if we start there, we know that this is a responsibility for men to address and push through those emotional hurdles. Another statistic is 49% of men admit that they downplay their depressed mood symptoms. So even when we push through the embarrassment, we don't actually share the big picture or the true severity level of what we're going through, which tells us that men, we like to cut corners. We like to share a little bit at times, but we don't go into detail. And I believe what we see on the slide here are all things that persist, even in 2021, things such as, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. And there still is a lot of paranoia that if we reveal certain things and share certain things, we might be prevented from elevating at our job, or we might be restricted from doing certain things as a non-crazy person would be able to do. We have to continue to educate. We have to continue to advocate so that these mental health challenges that we all experience are no longer met with judgment, criticism, and it has to be a detachment from mental health challenges being associated with an inferiority. If we look at the mental health breakdown, not everybody is going to have a mental health illness. Not everybody is going to qualify for a mental health disorder in their lifetime, but we all will go through mental health challenges because we are human. The more we reiterate this message, the more men will hopefully step up.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that because, I always say to folks that sometimes when we're going through experiences, and I think this is so true, especially for men, because unfortunately so many men have been socialized to just kind of hold it in. And that was referenced earlier by Ken Harvey when he was talking through and sharing his story. And, I think that this is an opportunity to remind us we are human. We are human. Men are human. And so because all of us are human, we're all going to have moments where we need support. And gratefully, there's supports that are available. We want to make sure that we share with you some signs and symptoms, things to pay attention to. These are some signs that if you see it within yourself or with someone you care about, that we want you to be aware of. And we'll talk in a few minutes about what you can do and where you can go. But if you see changes in sleep patterns, maybe wanting to sleep a little bit too much or not being able to sleep at all, we want you to pay attention to that. If a person is having changes in their mood, and so sometimes you may recognize those changes in yourself. Other times it might be the people around you who sort of see with this change that your moods are shifting. We want you to pay attention to that. If you see persistent or feel persistent sadness. Now, here's what I say to this. A lot of people say to me, what do you mean by persistent? So what I would say about that is when you start noticing that maybe you're feeling down a lot, or if other people are noticing it, then that might in fact be persistent, okay? It's normal for us, all of us, to have days where we're just not feeling at our best selves. But when we begin to notice a pattern in that, we want to recognize it. We want to be able to recognize that. If you see, or if others are saying to you, you've been a little short-tempered or you're feeling very irritable, this is really important. One of the things that we particularly see with men who've experienced depression is their depression might be experienced through what others perceive as irritability or short-temperedness versus them saying, I feel really sad. And part of that is because we have socialized men to be okay with expressing anger, but not to be okay with expressing sadness and hurt. And so it's important for us to recognize irritability and short-temperedness could be a sign of something more. Excessive worrying, right? So we didn't use the word anxiousness here, but again, excessive worrying. So excessive to me means when you start to see it or you begin to feel it and you're sort of like, I feel like I've been worrying about this or thinking about this. It's just on my mind all the time. Then maybe this is something that we may want to pay some attention to figure out how we address. Racing thoughts, trouble concentrating, right? Like sometimes people will say, my mind is just all over the place and I can't focus in on anything. We want to pay attention to that. Shifts in your appetite. You don't want to eat, or you're eating more than what you're used to eating. We want to definitely pay attention to those shifts in appetite. Feeling hopeless, just feeling like nothing is going to change and nothing is going to be the same again. So these feelings of hopelessness are things we want to pay attention to. And if you are finding that you're withdrawing from friends or activities you're used to, we want to pay attention to that too. So these are signs that we want you to be able to look at within yourself or within those in your circle. But there are times where some of those signs may shift to something that is even more serious, meaning that a person might even be thinking about hurting themselves. And in that situation, there are particular signs to pay attention to. So, Dr. Wingfield, can you talk a little bit about what are some of the signs related to suicide or suicidal ideation that folks should be able to pay attention to?
Whenever there's a change in behavior patterns, we ought to become investigators to figure out what is going on with ourselves or what is going on with the people around us. When we have more isolation, more withdrawal, no longer having the same desires to participate in things that were previously enjoyable, whenever there is a sequence or patterns of pessimistic language, hopelessness, there are times in which the appetite and the sleep are associated with increased probability of a person going through suicidal ideations because they are likely shutting down. And oftentimes there's an educational deficit when it comes to the topic of suicide. Not everybody realizes that suicidal ideations is somewhat of a normal reaction to an abnormal set of stressful circumstances. This is to say that the circumstances are so high in stress that it's crashing down on the central nervous system, and it's definitely going to influence whether you're thinking positively or negatively. Until those stressors are addressed, the suicidal ideations are not going to go anywhere. Whenever there are the suicidal ideations, we ought to think about the temporary essence of suicidal ideations. Whether they last a day or a week and sometimes a couple of months is somewhat expected until those stressors are addressed. And we know that suicide is best addressed in formal clinical care. We know that individuals typically cannot do it all on their own. And you talked about the socialization of men. And I think of the overextension of mottos, the overextension of sayings that we use to give ourselves pep talks in life. And I think about the pep talk overextension syndrome, where we might use a pep talk in a situation like we can do anything we can put our mind to. Now, this pep talk motto has a time and a place and a purpose, and we can use it here and there. But when we make it the mantra for our life, that is a mistake, because we literally can't do anything we put our mind to. We can't fly. God didn't give us the anatomical structure of a bird, right? We have limitations. And sometimes these quotes, these mottos can actually be over-applied or overextended to mental health situations, and whereby, a man might try to do it all on his own. These numbers on the screen here, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, just a dial away. Counselors are on the other side. And back to your question, the signs, that word persistence really comes up. Sadness is normal in life. We're all going to have ups and downs. When it is chronic, we're experiencing it every day, several hours in a day. It gets into the pit of our stomach. It affects us in a physiological way. This is more serious than just run-of-the-mill sadness. And so if we listen to our bodies, we ought to also listen to our minds. When our bodies feel different, we say, I'm feeling a little sore today, or my neck is stiff, or I'm cold. Please turn up the heat. I'm hot. Please turn on the AC. We should have the same types of announcements and communicative experiences when we have something happening in our mind. I'm feeling hurt that I didn't get a call back from the job that I applied to, and I know other people got a call back. How come I didn't get a call back? We ought to announce these things, because during the verbalization of our internal struggle, we typically organize our experiences better, and we can put out in the ethos that which we were retaining inside, and there's a lot more room out there than in here. So as we go through suicidal experiences, we should express that we are having the suicidal ideation, so that we can get the microphone, I say, out of our mind. And we want the microphone to be out here so that it's broadcast to people who can help. If you don't talk about the suicidal ideations, your mind will retain this microphone and they get louder and louder and louder. Get the microphone out of your mind, in front of you, broadcasting to people around you who can help, most importantly, professionals, mental health professionals.
I love that so much, Dr. Wingfield. I think, you know, a lot of times folks, they may see some of the signs, they may experience some of the signs, or you may see it in a person that you love and you care about, and they are not sure what to do. So what are some things that people who are listening today, what should they do if they feel like somebody might be considering hurting themselves?
Great question. And we can't dance around this topic. I love that this is included in today's content. We can't dance around it. If we believe that someone is acting strangely, oddly, just different, and we also see that it could be depression, go ahead and ask, are you having suicidal thoughts? Research says that when the question is posed, are you experiencing suicidal ideations? It does not increase the probability of a person engaging in that act. And that has been a problem in people's thinking in the past. They thought, well, I don't want to bring it up because I don't want to plant a seed in their head. The research says otherwise. So go ahead and just ask the question. Are you having suicidal thoughts? Are you having suicidal ideations? You'll be surprised. A lot of people will come out and say, yes, I am. Most people will just outright say it, or they will say it with their face, even if they don't say it with their words. So pay close attention to their facial expressions, not just their verbalizations. The numbers here, like we've said earlier, are key. It can open the gate to a person getting the right kind of information. Don't hesitate. The other thing that's important is understanding whether a person actually has a plan, understanding whether they have intentions, strong intentions, the access to do it, the means to do it. If the answer is yes to those questions, the emergency room is a place we need to go right away, or you're going to call 911. Because this is not an issue to play around with and hope for the best and keep your fingers crossed. No, this is a crisis situation. If the house was on fire, we would call the fire department. This person's mind essentially is on fire, so we need an intervention similar to a fire extinguisher. Once the ER is the location where you go, asking for the psychiatrist who's on call to do an evaluation. And if possible, if you're able to encourage the person that you've taken to just be really honest, that psychiatrist on call at the emergency room can give a accurate recommendation. And sometimes the recommendation is inpatient overnight stay, which is a good idea because we need stabilization. We need the person to be away from the triggers that causes suicidal ideations to increase. And in this environment with monitoring and assessment, evaluation, and those are the fundamentals.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wingfield. And, you know, there are times where someone may be confronted with a person who they don't believe is suicidal, but they think, you know what, they just need some help and support, and they're not sure how to provide it. So we want to give you all some thoughts about how you do this. So the first is to listen without judgment. Let me say some things to you about what that might look like. So when we say things to people like, you just must not be on your medication today, or you're just acting so bipolar, right? Sometimes we don't think that those words hurt or bring harm, and they can. So we want to encourage you to listen without judging the person. Just be able to actively listen and hear what they're saying. Ask them what they need. And sometimes the person will tell you what they need, and other times they'll say, I'm not really sure. We're going to give you some guidance on what to do with that. Express your concern and your support. Tell them that you care. Tell them that they matter. Reassure the person that they're important to you. Educate yourself. So if you have a person who's in your circle and they have some sort of a mental health condition or a mental illness, it's important for you to understand what that means, right? To be able to be supportive means that you too have to be educated. And then give yourself and that person some grace. You know, sometimes we all need a little bit of grace. So be willing to give grace to that person. And then connect them to resources. What Dr. Wingfield said was so critical. We must be willing to connect folks to resources. So we're going to provide you now with a few resources that are available to you. Some of these resources are at the national level. Some are here in Prince George's County. Some are online. So you see some of the national resources, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, SAMHSA's National Helpline, the Crisis Text Line. These are all resources that are available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call them, you can text them, you can reach out and get real-time support. That's if you're experiencing something or if someone that you care about is. You can also call 211 to be connected to resources here in Prince George's County and the Prince George's County's Department of Health, Behavioral Health Services. This number is here because not only can you be provided with information about resources, but on their website and through this number, you can also get information about local therapists that are available here in the county. We also are providing you with the websites for Mental Health America and the National Alliance on Mental Health or Mental Illness. And the reason that we're doing this, you all, is because there's a wealth of information available at these two sites to just give you information about some of the different mental health conditions that we referenced today, and also to provide you with more information about where to go and what to do. Now, we do have, I think, a couple of minutes, maybe, if there are questions that are in the chat, we'd love to answer. But I think the thing that we really want to most remind you of is actually something that our speakers, Brother Harvey and Brother Jones, said earlier. And that is that we are part of your village. Mental health providers are part of your village. And if any of you have ever gone to try to find a church community, finding a mental health provider is just like that. Sometimes you got to move around a little bit to find the person that works for you. But do not give up if you find somebody and they're not a right fit. Keep looking, because we're here. We're part of your village, and we want to be able to support you. So please, please, please make use of us. I don't know if Dr. Wingfield, if you wanted to just say anything about that and just the importance of reaching out to our mental health providers.
I'm all about limiting or reducing the barriers to accessing mental health care. One of the recommendations I'll give in some of my closing points is to take out your insurance card, even right now, and turn it to the back. Look at the number, the 1-800 number, the customer care line, and call. And just go through the steps of, I would like a mental health provider. You might not really need one, but you're going through the process to find out how it is. Or you go to the website for your insurance carrier, because some people don't take the proper steps when they really need to, because they don't really understand how to access the care using the insurance that they already possess. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yes, and knowing that there are resources, even if you do not have health insurance, there are providers, there's resources that are available to you. So as we close out, I just want to say mental health is not a destination, it is a process. It's about how you drive, not where you're going. Beautiful quote by Dr. Noam Spencer. And I hope that we've been able to give you some insight and motivate each of you to go and get the supports and resources you need.
All right. All right. What a wonderful presentation of resources. Thank you, Dr. Trish Brooke Goodley, Bent Goodley. Thank you, Dr. Robert J. Wingfield. I really appreciate it. I love your presentations. I always enjoy hearing all of those resources available. We've been in this fight for quite some time, and we are not going anywhere. I think the biggest thing, please, people, just use the resources. We're coming at you in several different different locations. All you need to do is click the link, share the link. Even if you didn't come here at 10, you can still review and check it out. We're here for you. And, you know, those questions and comments, thank you for putting them in the chat. We're going to try our best to answer. I see I got something from Ms. Smithson. Awesome. Could you provide your organization's email address, as I would love to collaborate, working with middle school youth. So we got somebody in, they want to know your email address, or, you know, provide your email address. What is it?
Well, for me, you can reach me at tbent-goodley@howard.edu. I'm sure someone will be able to put that into the chat for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my first name, dot, my last name, at boystown.org.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I'm sure it's going to rotate at the bottom lower third of this video, but thank you so much. We got to continue to move. We want to continue to keep highlighting those resources. Dr. Ben Goodley put up so many different numbers from the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That was 1-800-273-8255. She had SAMHSA's National Helpline. That was 1-800-662-4357. She put up the crisis text line text. If you text hello to 741-741, you get some help there. Don't forget to call 211 to be connected to the local Prince George's County resources. Also, the Prince George's County Department of Health, Behavioral Health Services. That's 301-883-7879. Don't forget about the Mental Health America, MHAnational.org, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI.org. Those are the resources, people. It was in Dr. Ben Goodley's presentation. You can go back, take a screenshot. I'm putting it out there for you. Access it. Don't suppress your issues. Ask for help. I know that's not common, but trust me, it will work. All right. Now, as we continue to move forward, we got a surprise for you at the end of the program. So don't go anywhere. You just make sure you stay tuned in. I'm hearing that we got some people from LA listening. What's up, West Side? I see you. Thank you for checking in. I got some people from Georgia and South Carolina telling me, you know, they're in and they're engaged and they're loving this information. We got to reach the men so we can train these young boys to figure out, hey, keep your hands off of these girls. And guess what? To tell these girls to keep your hands off these boys. You know, we want to raise them right. All right, let's plant the seed, people. All right, coming up next is the center of this whole project. All right, and it's Miss Jackie Roan. She's the Domestic Violence and Human Traffic Division Manager. Have a bigger title than that to acknowledge. She's going to acknowledge the Momentum Men and Boys Conference 5-year Founding Partners Award. And if you don't know Jackie's always doing something, making calls, connecting people, bringing things together. And if you don't know Jackie, you pretty much, that's probably step one. But thank you for your ongoing support, Jackie. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mandrell. Just like you said, boy, I want you to do my intro all the time. So thanks, but I wanted to mention something that I thought about as I was looking at the presentation. So first and foremost, Momentum was built out of community organizations, but it was first founded on the fact that men, when we were going out doing education on domestic violence, men said, what about us? We don't always want to be seen as the abuser. We want to be seen as a positive influence in creating healthy relationships. So that's what Momentum was built out of. So then we created these relationships with all these wonderful partners in the county that are providing services or assistance to men themselves and boys on topics of like healthy masculinity, child support issues, de-escalation, some of the things that were talked about today, how to support one another. So that's what Momentum is built out of. And it's done in this month because it is Women's History Month. So we want to say, you know, men wanted to work in partnership with women to create healthy relationships. So that's why this event is held in this month. So as we begin to close out today's conference, I really want to acknowledge our community partners that have made Momentum a huge success over the last 5 years. And those are what we're calling our founding community partners and partnerships that have made this a wonderful, wonderful experience for me and the community. And since we're doing this conference remotely, we've put together a really short video presentation to acknowledge them. But in no way is the length of this video a true representation of the commitment and impact that these organizations have made in creating healthy relationships in our county. So we'll show the video, and thank you all again for being our partners, whether it's been for 5 years or 1 year, and for being here. So we'll show the video. Thank you. Thank you again, Andrell, and for all of the wonderful partnerships we've had over the last 5 years. Looking forward to seeing everybody in person next year. Everybody's in person. Do what you're supposed to do so we could all be together.
Thank you, Jackie. That was like going back in time. Look at all of those organizations that represent the cause, about being proactive, about trying to help men with health issues, or maybe helping to break the silence to domestic abuse. They exist. I mean, as the chairman, what's coming now as the chairman, I'm the chairman of the Family Justice Foundation. We're coming out with some stuff. We're building on some stuff. We're planting some seeds. But there are people out here that care about you, that want to reach out to you and want to make sure you are doing well. Now, we want to continue to move on. We're going to bring up my man, Elio Wade. He's a program coordinator. He's going to talk about the Men's Challenge initiative because we need to galvanize. We need to bring it together. We need to keep moving. We don't need to separate. We don't need to bring each other down. We need to move in one direction. As long as we're on the same street, you may have a different perspective, but we need to be on the same road and move in the same direction. Talk to me, Mr. Wade.
All right. Thank you, Mandrell, for that introduction. I'm Elio Wade. I'm the program coordinator for the Domestic Violence Human Trafficking Division at the Department of Family Services. And I'm the host of the Men's Challenge Initiative. Historically, when the subject of domestic violence is being discussed, it is assumed that the conversation will be done in a negative tone. But at the Men's Challenge Initiative, we created an environment where men can open up and have open discussions and encourage them to work in a partnership with the women in the community for healthy relationships. Also, this program has been featured in Capital News Service Television and in the Washington Informer. So at this time, we would just like to show our appreciation for some of the presenters over the last 18 months during the COVID for coming out and graciously being a part of the Men's Challenge Initiative. So right now we're going to show you the video clip, and I hope you enjoy some of the seeing some of the presenters. All right. Thank you, Mandrell, for showing the video. I want to thank all the presenters that came out, like I said, during the pandemic. And I want everybody to realize to get ready for June 18th for the Father's Day Pledge, because we will be hosting the Father's Day Pledge event. Hopefully it could be in person, but if not, get ready for the Father's Day Pledge because it's coming up next.
All right, cool. Thank you, Elio. I really appreciate that, bro. And keep doing what you're doing. We're here. We're for you, Prince George's County, and the entire country. It looks like, because people are chiming in from LA to Georgia to South Carolina. It's crazy, but here we're doing our thing. But you know what? We're going to ask now for Maryland Delegate Ronald Watson to help us close out the Momentum Conference with the Momentum Conference Challenge, which is the call to action for today. And then we're going to wrap it up right after that video. But this is the call to action. We're going to bring up right now Delegate Ronald Watson. Check this out.
Good afternoon. I'm Maryland State Delegate Ron Watson, and I want to thank each of you for your participation today in another Momentum Conference that seeks to educate men and young boys to accomplish our goal to eliminate domestic violence. I want to take a moment to share some thoughts and give you a call to action. And before I give that call to action, let me reiterate why these conversations are important. They're important because every 9 seconds, a young woman is beaten in the US. That's 3.5 million a year, many of which go unreported. And while we all hear about the horrible acts of domestic violence that occur each year, I want us to take a quick deep dive into the genesis of these events. How do things get so bad so quickly? The men in attendance know, and you young brothers will understand, that being a man has many challenges: staying healthy, keeping a job, meeting obligations, keeping your family safe, taking care of family members and loved ones, and ensuring that any relationship we're in is healthy and fulfilling for both partners. I will be the first to tell you that I've had to drop to my knees in tears many times to try to deal with these challenges. And if we don't recognize these challenges and learn how to effectively deal with them, things can go sideways pretty quick. For you young men in relationships with your pretty girlfriends, you see them talking to another brother and you get jealous. That jealousy can lead to stalking, and that stalking can lead to dating violence. For our older men, we have a loss of a job. We start feeling the pressures of trying to make it. Do the pressures lead to the excessive use of alcohol and drugs? And in an inebriated state, does that cause you to take frustrations out on someone you really care about, cause you to have a desire to hurt someone, including yourselves? There are always clues that lead to domestic violence. It could be name calling, telling your partner she's worthless or a bad mother. It could be controlling behavior, finding ways to keep your partner from doing what she wants to do by taking her car keys, or tracking her communications by checking her cell phone or social media accounts. It could be economical, not allowing your partner to have access to finances or a job. Or it can even be through intimidation, yelling, slamming doors. Or it could be isolation, keeping your partner from family and friends. And yes, any of these things can unfortunately lead to domestic violence. For us men, we hold way too much inside because we've been taught incorrectly to believe that we have to be strong in all things. We believe that a real man will just deal with it and not burden others. We incorrectly equate our manhood to being able to handle anything and everything that comes our way. Brothers, I'm telling you, that type of thinking is wrong. And if you think you can handle all the vicissitudes that life throws at you, that is a recipe for disaster. Maintaining our mental health and wellness is the key. So for me, this is all about accountability. Each of us must be accountable to someone. And so here's my call to action. I'm calling on every male, young or old, who can hear my voice, to create a council of elders. What is an elder? An elder is a person who is valued for wisdom, age, authority, and experience, and holds a position of authority in your life whom you respect, you trust, and most importantly, can hold you accountable. It doesn't matter if they're males or females, family members or non-family members. One of our biggest shortfalls as men is that we have always served as the support structure for others, but oftentimes we don't have that structure for ourselves. And so today, I want us to close that gap. I suggest that you have at least 3 members in your council of elders. And before you sign them up, you let them know from time to time you'll need their support, their advice. You'll need them to be a close confidant, meaning what you tell them stays with them. And most importantly, you need them to be accessible. Someone who you can make a phone call anytime, day or night, who will answer your call. And once you have your council set up, your job is to reach out when you're feeling some kind of way, or there are problems at home or in school, or any issue that could derail your greatness. It's been said in prior Momentum conferences that your job is to develop and grow as a leader so that you can positively influence and add value to yourself and your family. I will leave it there, but I hope in next year's Momentum Conference that you will bring 1 or 2 of your elders with you. we would look forward to that. And finally, speaking of momentum, Ken Harvey will tell you in his football days that momentum meant getting the ball down the field. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Ms. Jackie Roan, who is the Associate Director for the county's Domestic Violence and Human Trafficking Division. Momentum is her brainchild and one of the few annual programs designed to educate men to improve our mental health and wellness. And therefore, I'd like to present to Ms. Roan a citation from the Maryland General Assembly, which states, Maryland General Assembly official citation, be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Jackie Roan in recognition of your vision towards ending domestic violence and elevating the dialogue to educate men and young males on healthy relationships. Kudos on your efforts to improve our community through implementing 6 years of momentum. Presented on this 20th day of March, 2021 by Delegate Ron Watson, Prince George's County Legislative District 23. Congratulations, Jackie, and thanks again for allowing me to participate.
All right, what a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Maryland Delegate Ronald Watson. Congratulations, Jackie Roan. She's always doing something, and I'm pretty sure she's going to get some more awards. Let me wrap this bad boy up for you, and I want you to remember a few things as we close, as we come to a close. 1, every day is a new beginning. 2, take your experience to help other people. 3, don't let your aspirations get canceled by your frustration. 4, you will never reach your destiny if you are guided by a spirit of fear. Open and change your perspective. Keep your mind open. Keep in mind that change will require courage. I used to wonder about the amount of individuals who would attend this event, and I just realized that the quantity does not equate to success. If we are able to plant the seed in the minds of change makers, then those individuals are the ones who can help to change the world. Now, without commitment, you will never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you will never finish. And the only difference between possible and impossible is your determination. Always remember, money only spends once, but knowledge monetizes forever. Don't let your current condition determine your career goal. Don't let your friend's condition determine your destiny. Sometimes you need to go in the other direction in order to get to the other side. You can't reach your full potential by going in the wrong direction. Just like Pastor Jenkins said, the wilderness, I believe, is preparing you for your ministry. All right. So thank you so much for joining us. This broadcast has been brought to you by the Prince George's County Department of Family Services, Domestic Violence and Human Traffic Division. Thank you so much, everybody. And just like my man, Reverend Sims would say, have a great day on purpose. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Hopefully, I'll see you next year.